we don't know why. We've certainly had inquiries and what have you, but there's just nothing.
The Mystery of Princess Doe. It started on July 15th, 1982, in the rural township of Blairstown, New Jersey. At around 8 a.m., George Kise, a gravedigger who worked at Cedar Ridge Cemetery, had been around the southeast corner of the cemetery when he spotted something red in the distance, laying on a floor across the creek bank. On closer inspection, it was more than just something. It was someone. As to who? Well, that would be the question that would stump investigators for decades. It was the corpse of a woman whose face was so disfigured and damaged that it was impossible to tell what she looked like before her death. The state of decomposition at that point has been frequently reported to be so bad as to leave even her eye color to be indeterminable. While the body had been left outside to decay for days, perhaps weeks, the damage done to the woman was deliberate, having clearly been smashed in with an undetermined weapon. With no good evidence in sight, the mystery of Princess Doe would be born. Who was this poor victim? Why was she killed? And how did the stars align to put a name to the nameless body and killer? Let's find out. Part 1. The case. As the identity of the body could not be discerned, investigators would first turn to the circumstances of what may have happened. Aside from the unimaginable damage to the face, the rest of the body had been spared of further trauma, though it still had decayed since her time of death. The faceless woman was wearing a red, short-sleeved shirt with yellow piping. There was also a peasant-style skirt lying on top of her legs. The body lacked footwear or undergarments, yet did not leave any conclusive evidence of sexual assault, perhaps due to the state of decay the body had undergone. That said, it was noted that there was trauma to the victim's hands and arms, suggesting that she had fought in self-defense against the killer before her death. Investigators took note of any unusual identifying features that could help determine the body's identity. The victim had peculiar accessories on her body, consisting of a gold cross necklace found in her hair and 2 earrings on the left ear. The victim also had red nail polish on just the right hand. The body below the neck had no apparent surgical scars, birthmarks, or tattoos. The face, of course, could have had any of these traits, had it not been tampered with. Teeth were found on the body, with the 2 front teeth being slightly darker than the other teeth. Along with no signs of sexual assault, the victim was not pregnant at the time of death and had never given birth, with the age of the victim being between 14 to 18 years old. In addition, toxicology was unable to determine any signs of drugs due to the time between decomposition and discovery being as long as it was, having been exposed to hot and humid weather at the time, making conditions even more difficult to determine. It was because of the circumstances surrounding this environment that many gaps in the case would be born from. For example, was the murder committed in the cemetery itself? There wasn't any evidence that suggested it had been, and yet there were no other obvious areas where the killing could have happened either. The weather conditions certainly didn't help, with any traces of blood or other signs of violence being swept away by the elements. While there may have been a sexual intent behind the murder, again, it was also something that couldn't be conclusively determined. And of course, there was the victim's face, defiled beyond recognition. The state that she was found in must have shaken Lieutenant Eric Kranz, the detective assigned to the case at the time, because he was the one who gave the victim the now well-known moniker of Princess Doe, a play on Jane Doe that he suggested so that the victim and her case wouldn't end up forgotten. He absolutely had the right idea, as the case would gain recognition and seed itself into the public consciousness for decades to come. Following the discovery of the body, several months later on January 22nd, 1983, the victim that was now known as Princess Doe would be buried near where she had been discovered, in the Cedar Ridge Cemetery. In the following year, several initiatives would be taken to try and keep the case afloat. In April 1983, HBO would air a special on unidentified human remains, one of such remains being that of Princess Doe. On June 30th, 1983, the Princess Doe case would become the first unidentified person case to be put into the NCIC computer database by then FBI Director William Hedgecock Webster. And on July 16th, 1983, a lifelike bust, of an interpretation of Princess Doe by forensic artist Frank Bender was provided. This would be one of many sketches and renditions of what Princess Doe looked like, but of course, no one really knew for sure which of these were more correct than the other. One of the most popular early theories on the identity of Princess Doe was of a girl named Diane Janice Dye, a 13-year-old girl from San Jose, California. Dye had left her home on July 30th, 1979, presumably due to her parents' marital issues, and hadn't returned since. Reportedly, she was last seen in late December 1981 by one of her friends at a daily city shopping mall 50 miles north of San Jose. Dye had told her friend that she didn't want to go home and wanted her whereabouts to be kept secret. The origin of this far-reaching connection came from San Jose police in April 1984, who noted that Dye's description matched that of the now-known Princess Doe. The body had some similar traits in body structure and dental work, which was enough for New Jersey authorities to latch onto as a definitive answer to the case, at one point even holding a press conference to identify Princess Doe as Diane Dye. However, the evidence had never been conclusive and was only born from conjecture. Dye's parents were not convinced that Princess Doe was their daughter, and were not pleased by the New Jersey officials who tried to use their daughter's name in an attempt to close the case. Lieutenant Kranz would also agree that Dye was not a viable candidate for Doe's identity. Despite some later reported sightings of Dye in the 80s, this would be a dominant theory in the case of Princess Doe's identity until 2003, when a comparison between Princess Doe's DNA and Diane's mother would prove that the two of them were unrelated to each other. Part 2. The Killer. While the identity of Princess Doe continued to hang in the air, the identity of the killer, or rather killers, would eventually come to light. 17 years after the discovery of Princess Doe, the primary suspects of the case would be Arthur and Donna Kinlaw. The husband and wife duo had been caught due to Donna being arrested in California. The reason? She had attempted to commit welfare fraud, going by the name of Elena, which had been traced back to a Long Island native. When the police interrogated Donna, she seemingly let everything out on the Kinlaw's crimes, telling them of the murder of 3 women by Arthur, a woman named Linda, and 2 other unidentified women. This confession put the 2 of them behind bars and put Arthur on death row. However, Donna wouldn't stop giving away Arthur's crimes, telling authorities that he also killed a sex worker earlier in 1982, and more importantly, also brought home a teenage girl in July 1982 to have sex with her. Arthur had left their home with the girl afterwards, but appeared visibly shaken when he returned home alone later that day. 2 weeks later, Donna had read the report of police finding the body of Princess Doe. The description was a dead ringer of the girl that had been brought to the Kinlaw's home. Not only that, but Arthur had begun acting strange after the incident, disposing of his clothes and cleaning his vehicle. He then threatened Donna to do her job, or else he would kill her like he did the girl that was in their home the other day. Logically, it's clear to assume that Princess Doe was the one who had been at the Kinlaw's home. After Arthur had gotten what he wanted, he likely drove out Doe before killing her inside or near her car, and then dumping the body at the cemetery where she would be discovered. Unfortunately, while Arthur was guilty of other murders, the connection between him and the Princess Doe case lacked any corroboration, meaning that he was unable to be charged for her death specifically, despite claiming responsibility. Indeed, police would be convinced that even without evidence, Arthur was the killer. They just needed evidence. And the question remained, who was Princess Doe? Part 3. The Victim. 22 years after the Kinlaw's arrest, on June 18, 2021, Atria Forensics would begin to extract DNA from Princess Doe's body and construct a DNA profile. The process would take several months, and on February 10, 2022, the profile was successfully completed and sent to genealogists to determine a potential match for Princess Doe. 12 days later, forensics would announce that they found a candidate, traveling to West Babylon, New York, to meet Robert Olanik Jr., who they determined to be Princess Doe's brother, in order to get DNA samples from not only him, but also another sister of the victim. With that, the identity of Princess Doe was finally confirmed on April 29, 2022, as Dawn Olanik. The announcement was publicly made on the 40th anniversary of her discovery on July 15, 2022. According to Robert Olanik Jr., Dawn had left her home in Bohemia Long Island Way from her single mother and sister around June 24th, 1982, intending to move out, but was never seen again. It's believed that Arthur Kinlaw would have picked up the now stray Olanik and attempted to lure her into prostitution. When she refused, Kinlaw would drive her to New Jersey before, in his words, he strangled her with his hands and hit her in the head with a baseball bat. Following further corroboration and witness statements, Arthur Kinlaw would finally be charged with 1 count of homicide for the death of Don Olanik. As of this video, Kinlaw is currently still imprisoned for his various other murder convictions. As for the Don Olanik case, investigators are now looking into her movements leading up to her death. But at least now, after 4 whole decades, authorities and family can rest knowing that Princess Doe won't be remembered namelessly. So there you have it. It's rare to find such a conclusive answer to mysteries like this one. Hopefully, we will be solving more in the next year. What are your thoughts about the case of Princess Doe? Let us know in the comments below. If you appreciated this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more true crime coverage. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in the next video.